We are live. We've had a few technical issues, but never mind that. We are live. The internet doesn't look great, but I'm delighted to be joined by my great friend, Lee Clark. Lee, how are you?
Hello, Pete. How are you doing? I hope you can see us and hear us as well as possible. As you said, we've had a few technical issues. Hello?
We've definitely got Lee. I know he's there somewhere.
Hello? Can you hear me?
He's there.
Hello?
Can Lee hear me?
Yeah, I've got
Lee,
you.
can you hear me?
Sorry about it. Yeah, I've got you. Sorry about it.
Hi, Lee. Can you hear? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
okay.
I can hear you.
No. We are. No, it's not. No problem. We've got all the guys around the world joining us to see Lee Clark. It's brilliant to see you, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good. Just getting ready to train later on this afternoon with the players. There's an international break at the moment, so we're just keeping the players working hard and ready to resume the league schedule, and so we're just keeping the players right.
The league schedule. When's that back in play? Because I mean, it's we're going to get into this, but it's a brand new adventure for you. Obviously out in Africa. How does that work?
Yeah, well, obviously now because I have so many players, I've got 8 away, but we've got 3 who are certain domestic suspension, so we probably have 11 with the international squad of Sudan. So they're not back till the 20th of June. So our next scheduled game at the moment is 25th of June. So, but we have another group of players that aren't away that we've got to keep right. So when the other international lads come back, we're ready to continue the good form.
I mean, obviously, as I say, it's new to you, but we've got a huge African fan base now for Hollywood Balls, and we're just delighted that you're a guest. I just want to let you know I'm going to welcome all the guys because they're literally flying in. The messages are flying in as well. And before anyone starts, no, Lee Clark was my favourite player. It was never Stevie Watson. So it's a huge change for you, Lee. But what I want to do is I want the guys to understand you're literally at Al Merreikh SC now, which is the largest African club, right? They've won they've won the Premier League 16 times. They've won the Cup 14 times. It's a massive challenge for you to bring the glory days back. So we are going to talk about that, but I want the guys and girls to understand a little bit about you and a little bit about your history, where you came from. That's why I'm wearing my black and white today. It's why I've got the Newcastle background on. All the TFC people know I'm a Geordie, but there's no more Geordie than you, is there?
No, I was born and raised on the banks of the Tyne. My back garden was a couple of 100 yards from the River Tyne. So the story at the moment is going from the River Tyne to the River Nile.
It's Newcastle to Redcastle, right?
Newcastle to the Redcastle, yeah, lots of links. But yeah, my history is I basically, played for my local club, was part of an era that was one of the most successful in the club's history.
Yeah.
And one of the most exciting teams. They say teams that finished second are never remembered. Well, the team that I played in, we finished second in the Premier League, and with the adulation that we're held with the fans is phenomenal. But as I said, we played in an era that was it made a huge impact for the football club. I played over 300 league and cup games, for the football club. I lived the dream. When I went to my first game as a supporter in 1980 as an 8-year-old, never ever realising that the players I was watching on St James's I would be following further down the line. Well,
we were probably at the same game.
So,
but I've got to ask you though. You start with we have a lot of on Hollywood Balls about how people start out. Something that's very special to you and to everyone in Newcastle, and I want the guys to understand is tell us a little bit about Wallsend and Walker, because it literally is a hotbed, and it's where some great players come from. But I mean, it does bring the best out of the young Northeast talent.
Yeah, obviously it's Walker and Wallsend close by to each other, the east end of the city. Very, very working class. Whatever you get, you work hard for. So I started as a 6-year-old at the Wallsend Boys Club, which is very famous for the players that it's produced for the Football League, but also the Premier League. It brought out a T-shirt with its Premier League 11, and I think it was worthy of probably beating most Premier League teams. I think that some of the players on there, the front two was Beardsley and Shearer. The midfield two was myself and Michael Carrick, with Alan Thompson on the left. Steve Watson and Robbie Elliott were the fullbacks. Stevie Bruce, one of the centre backs. So
it's not a bad side, is it?
Yeah, it's not just a club that just worries about getting players into the football world. It takes on boys and girls now, but it's the discipline, it's the enjoyment, it's allowing you to express yourself, it's learning you for the future, whatever industry you go into, and it's still doing that to this day. And it's the lifeblood of the town. You mentioned Wallsend Boys Club anywhere. I say in the world now, because it's getting world renowned. They compete in the Hong Kong Sevens, and you talk about that, and people automatically think of Wallsend Boys Club, and it gives you a great grounding as a young person. The discipline you have to use for the training sessions, and ultimately, I was there like 5 nights a week, Monday to Friday. Then I was playing 11-a-side on a Sunday. If I wasn't training for the 11-a-side team, I was playing in the 5-a-side leagues, and loved it. Loved every minute of it. Loved the people who worked there. They were brilliant. We had everyone knew each other. It was like one big family. It was the youngest team would start training, and then in half-hour blocks, the next team would come in. So we had a room upstairs where we'd do our weights and physical work. And then after half hour, we'd go down onto the 5-a-side court downstairs to do our football training. And there was like a revolving door of each team. So you'd get to meet the older guys and stuff like that. Obviously, when I was only 6, the youngest team was under 11. So I was playing like 5 above myself. So
I've got to say a big hi to Carl Walsh, by the way, because Carl is a massive supporter of Hollywood Balls. Someone I know Lee. Literally watches every Hollywood Balls show. So massive hi to him. He does a lot at Wallsend Boys Club for the ladies' side as well, which is massive. But for the guys, I mean, just so they understand, we've got so many fans from around the world. People are checking in from Sweden, Nigeria. I've got to ask: what was the great? I mean, you started when they said you're going to play for Newcastle. How did that feel? As as a young man from as you say, the banks of the Tyne, it must have been a dream.
Yeah, well, obviously, when you get the first opportunity as a 14-year-old, you sign schoolboy form, so you're on the bottom of a very high ladder, and you're on the bottom rung. So even then, you're not thinking about first team. You're thinking about doing really well and trying to impress people. So eventually, when I was 17, September 1990, when I got the call off Jim Smith down at Bristol City away make my first team debut. It was surreal. It was so nerve-wracking, but it was so happy day for it as well. Something I'd dreamed of, as I said, something I'd never thought I could achieve. I didn't really understand how you became, like the stars, because when you're a Newcastle fan, if the players are playing for Newcastle, they're stars in your eyes. So I didn't really understand that, but that chance came at 17. Wow, it was phenomenal. The thing was, I wasn't driving. I hadn't games on the early days. I used to get the bus from Wallsend to Haymarket bus station, and I used to travel with the fans on the bus. And when they were walking off to the pub, I'd make me way to St James's. So the difference for me was they were going for a couple of pints to watch the game, and I was going there on the pitch, and probably the same guys I was sitting next to on the bus were either slagging us off or praising us.
I think they'd be praising you, mate.
And the bus driver used to let us off with a 50p fare. I hope I don't get him into trouble.
It was 50p, was it? I think it was 49p from Wickham to Warwick Street. Got to ask you though about life under Kevin Keegan. Probably one of the greatest times in football. Not just for Newcastle fans, but for football fans in general. You talk about the entertainers. And I say we, and I'm going to say we were so close to winning that league, weren't we?
No, we. It was a phenomenal time. The man put one on a roller coaster. He said it from the day he walked in when he done his first press conference. It was about being, on a roller coaster, fasten the seatbelts, because he was going to compete against the best, and he wasn't going to be frightened to tell them. And he made the players buy into that, and he drove us. He drove us with his knowledge. His recruitment was one of the best I've ever seen and since, in terms of bringing players in to continue recruit the squad. And he, alongside Sir John Hall with his finances, allowed us to start bringing top players in, and that ultimately improved the rest of the players, because we had to raise our standards continually to keep our place in the group. So, and we loved every minute of it. He was tough in terms of he had such big demands, and his big thing was to deliver for the supporters. That was the thing. He had so much respect and loved the fans so much, and knew what they were about to the football club. If ever we didn't deliver in terms, and that was very few and far between under him, the thing he would criticise us for, that we'd let the fans down, and that was the way he managed the group. That's how the club ran. It was us delivering for those fans who worked extremely hard Monday to Friday to earn the money to come and watch us home and away in ridiculous numbers, and had to deliver for them. And the odd time we didn't, he wasn't slow in telling us, and that was it basically in a nutshell. But
was that hard? Was that harder on you, Lee, and the Geordie lads? I mean, you're talking yourself, Watto, some great Newcastle talent over that club. Did you guys feel that harder? That because you just said you were getting the bus to the match. I mean, crikey, but you were going to play, and the rest were probably going to the Farmers' Arms. Was that a harder thing for you?
No, it was really difficult. I mean, we felt the pain of the fans, but I think what we done is, and I think the manager realised this, he needed a group of Geordies in his squad. One, that we had to be good enough, which we were, but also we pushed across the fact of what the club meant to the area, and the other players listened. The players that came from other clubs in England, but also the foreign lads. So it was, and they bought into it. Every player that came in realised that what the club was about, what made the club important. The club was important because the numbers of the fans, and we had to then deliver a team that was worthy of those fans, and that's what we did. The club still gets talked upon as being a big club, but at the moment in time, unfortunately, it's only big because of the number of fans that support it home and away. and the rest of it isn't particularly that big. So you have to deliver for them, and you have to understand what it means. And for example, the very few times we did lose a game under Kevin, there was no way we were going to go out socialising, because we felt we'd let people down and we didn't want to be seen. We're a little bit embarrassed to go out in the public domain and see people, whether it be in a bar or a restaurant or even doing our shopping. We sent the wives out just to do that on our own. But yeah, because we felt we'd let them down, and that's the way it was. It was a real connection.
It's what it meant.
Yeah, it was a real connection between the players and the fans. We had a great rapport when we did socialise in the city. Everyone, all the players were open to speak to the supporters. There was a real bond. There was not like us and them. It was, we're going to be successful because of each other. We needed their support, and we never disrespected that. We never took that for granted. We really were in awe. I mean, we obviously had Maiden Castle, and which was a public facility, and in the holidays it was like phenomenal. The numbers that turned out, especially the Christmas holidays leading up to Christmas, in between Christmas. Yeah, no exaggeration to say we could have anything between 5,000 and 10,000 supporters there. So
for training, amazing.
Yes, even in training, you were getting judged, and it was great because you were continually being judged by the supporters on what you were doing, and it was great. The rapport was superb, and it was one of the main factors.
Now, I've got a few things. I'm going to move on from Newcastle, but before I do, I've got a little surprise video for you, to show you your moves in 1993, celebrating a goal. By the way, I was at.
Looks for support, finds Clark, narrow angle, it's in! Well, how on earth did that squeeze in past Fraser Digby? Good running from Andy Cole, turned it into Lee Clark, who seemed to have run down a blind alley.
I'm going moves like Jagger.
Yeah, me and Curly were organising some crazy dance moves, and wherever it was, obviously he was doing more dance moves than me, the amount of goals
But an 8-hour trip to go to Swindon, but to see Lee Clark and Andy Cole score, I think it was 2s each. I'll let you off with that. I'm going to move on because your life changed. I mean, I want to talk to you about Fulham, because London was a huge part of your life, and I was looking at Fulham today in research for this interview. Some players in that team that you were a part of, Lee.
Yeah, listen, another example of not the unexpected happen. Whenever I used to play in London, I felt the place was huge. We used to go or travel the day before the game, and then I'd have a walk around wherever we stayed in the hotel, and I thought the place was huge. I was terrified of it. So I never ever thought I'd end up living there, but end up having 7 unbelievable years there. Played for a fantastic club. Looked after the families of the players so well. We obviously had a high profile owner, and Mohammed Al Fayed, and he backed the club unbelievably with the finances. When he took over, they were in the the day I signed, for example, for Fulham, there was a celebration there was a group of fans who were celebrating 5 years previous to finish 91st out of 92 clubs in the Football League. And here I was signing for Fulham in the Championship to try and help them get the Premier League. We got to the Premier League, and we also then competed in the Europa League. So by the owner, and as you said, we had some magnificent football players in that. I still love going back, inducted into the Forever Fulham family, which is basically around like a Hall of Fame type scenario. Love going back to the place. Everything about the club is special for us. The football side, how they looked after my family, the cottage, Motspur Park, the training ground where we lived. No bad. I had a couple of injuries there, longer term injuries, Achilles problems, but that was the only downside. Everything about it, when I go back, the fans are fantastic. I love speaking to them, and will always have a special place in my heart. I always look out for the results. Been a difficult. It was turmoil for me in the middle a few weeks ago when it looked like it was going to be between Newcastle and Fulham for that last relegation place. That was the most awful scenario for me. So Newcastle obviously went on a great run. Fulham couldn't keep it going. Hopefully,
so many special memories for you there as well. It's like it must have been a real, and played in black and white for the both. I'm literally getting so many messages, Lee, in how did you squeeze that in? I'm like, I don't know how I was there that day, and I don't know how we did. Davy Gallagher's on from Wickham. Davy Gallagher from the Bridle Path, amazing, where you get around the world. That's a good question. How did you squeeze that one in at Swindon? He doesn't know. He doesn't know, do you? We're going to move on. When you leave playing, and I've asked you this before because you've been on Hollywood Bowls, you're a massive supporter, of which we are truly thankful. But to get into management, but it was a very special person that got you into coaching. It was Glenn Roeder, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, obviously, when I came back a second time at Newcastle as a player coach, and obviously that second time was mainly the playing side was going to be in emergencies, but it turned out I had to play in 30 emergencies because I ended up playing 30 games that season. In the last season, far more than envisaged. I also started helping Tommy Craig with the reserves, and he was helping me as well. He was mentoring us with me coaching, and then when Tommy left and Glenn had been the manager, there was a vacancy, and Glenn says, "Listen, are you thinking about what you think about playing wise?" And I said, "Well, few injuries. I've had a great career, and we decided that we wouldn't continue with the playing side, and that I would end up becoming the reserve team manager." And on my shoulder, and I did that, but also helping with the first team. Glenn was great. He got us involved on the deadline days stuff, and I was in his office and listening to the conversations between him and the chairman, Freddie Shepherd, and between the agents, and so obviously I was learning the industry, and I knew Glenn from many years earlier. When I was a schoolboy and the club was trying to attract us with the other clubs that were coming, Glenn was the captain in the early 80s. Yep. So at school holidays, I would come in, and at 14 years of age, I'd train with the first team, and Glenn would be the captain, and he took us under his wing. So there was a long affinity with him. And when he came back as academy director and I was playing, we talked a lot about coaching, etc. There was a strong relationship. Then obviously when Glenn left and then he took the Norwich City job, that the first call he made was to me to come be his assistant, and that was probably only him and certainly with the friendship we had would get us away from Newcastle, and we had a great year. We'd done the job that was expected at Norwich because we took over when they were bottom of the table in December, and we kept them in the league, and we tried to readdress and rebalance the group. And so the news that came along a few months ago was like a hammer blow to myself personally and my family, because he was a very, very close friend. And what hurt was because of the COVID, I couldn't get to say my last goodbyes at the funeral. But what made it a bit easier was the response of the football world. Clubs that Glenn hadn't even worked for, and how they reacted to his passing. And everyone said the same thing: a great football man, but a great human being.
He lived in Wickham, my place, and he also it was a new place at the time. It was called Fellside Park, but he used to let the kids go and play football. I mean, literally, who could go and play football?
I think Glenn was one of them. Glenn was one of them that people don't realise what he achieved until, unfortunately, he passed. I mean, he didn't get enough credit for what he achieved as the manager. he didn't get enough credit because he took the team that was languishing mid-table.
8th league, wasn't it? 8th.
Yeah, we got the Europa League, and because through winning the Intertoto, so he got the club into Europe. He handed some great debuts, Tim Krul and Andy Carroll, giving their debuts away in Palermo. And you know, he obviously the 4-1 win at the Stadium of Light is always an important win for any Newcastle manager.
Yeah,
that was a very good one, and he made some big and good decisions. One of them was getting me off the pitch after about 65 minutes, and he replaced with me within seconds. So that was an inspired managerial decision. The funny thing about that with Glenn, he used to apologise to him for that. I used to say, listen, Glenn, I'm not bothered. You know, ultimately, I was only playing towards the end of that season and I was playing with a double hernia, but they asked me to carry on playing till the end of the season before I had the op, because Emery had gone down with a serious knee injury and was short again in numbers. So it was affecting me performances, and I wasn't at my best that day, obviously. And the changes made a difference. But I was the happiest man ever. We won. That kept my Tyne Derby, record intact. I never lost one, and for the win,
I was going to say it's not a bad record, is it?
I would have hated to stay on the pitch and we had lost that game. If the choice was to take me off and we win the way we did, brilliant. I'll take that all day long about me staying on. You cannot be selfish in those games. It's about winning. I even said that when I was a reserve team manager there, and I think it should be saying to all the young players at the club, from the youngest Newcastle team, it's the only game where performance doesn't matter. It's the only game where the result is the be-all and end-all for every single team, to beat your local rival. And that's what I used to say to the reserve team when I managed them. It was all about me developing players when I was reserve team manager. The results were, I wanted them to get into winning mentality, but they weren't the be-all and end-all. But when we played Sunderland, I couldn't give two hoots about the performance. It was the result that mattered, and they had to get that instilled into them. Because if they got in the first team and they were lucky enough to play in a Tyne and Wear derby, nobody remembered good performances, either individually or team-wise, if the club didn't get the result. They just remembered the result, and that's all that mattered.
Massive. So many messages coming in. Great message from Solar in as well, saying, and Ola Jongo saying, Lee Clark, would you coach Newcastle if you got the chance? Given at the moment, we're just literally about to come into that part of your career. It's great. It's a great question, though.
Not under today's regime. If you had asked me a year ago or two, I would have said yes. But I'm looking at it from a more close point of view, and I've seen the situation with Steve Bruce, good friend of mine, and what he's had to go through, both family-wise and personally. The criticisms have gone beyond football at times, and I think it's down to the lack of backing that comes from above. It's down to the lack of ambition from above. You know, when your sole objective for the job accomplished, well, it doesn't inspire you a lot, and it means that the lack of investment in the group and in the infrastructure of the club.
But you've got a massive new project yourself, so it's not like you can be doing that. You've got a lot to think about in your new role. I'm going to get to that, but I do want to mention a couple of things first. When you went into managerial career, Huddersfield, is that still a record, by the way, in the Football League? Was it 41 games?
43, yeah. Brian Clough had 42 and I took it to 43. So not bad person to knock into second place. Listen, I'm still proud of it. It's something that is, phenomenal. I've tried to replicate it because of the group, but listen, us guys become good coaches and good managers because we get good groups of players. The players make the coaches or the managers. You know, we provide them with the tactics. They've got to deliver it. To replicate that again, they were a phenomenal group. I still see them. I keep in touch with them. I see they're all on holiday together. There's 7 or 8 of them there now over in Portugal. They're all together playing golf with our families. And that was the rapport what we created with them. It was very similar to what I was talking about with Kevin. They were a great group of lads. They'd fight for each other. They'd done everything for me and my staff, whatever I asked. You know, if we hadn't had a couple of serious injuries to important players, we would have went up automatically. We wouldn't have needed playoff situations. And it was just a phenomenal time. And so a large amount of those players have gone on to bigger and better things, had some great moves, big money moves. And I'm so proud of them when I see them now. You know, they're coming towards, I get to the latter part of their careers, but, you know, they've done fantastic. They've ended up having they're going to give great lifestyles to their families. I tried ever so hard at all my clubs to replicate that, but, you know, for whatever reason, it didn't work at certain things. But they were, you know, a brilliant time working for an owner who I still keep in touch with. Give me my first backing, the support I had from the terraces, the support I had from behind the scenes, and the players that I had were brilliant. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank them all.
I'm coming into Birmingham. I mean, that was literally mission impossible for you. I mention it for 2 reasons. You're smiling because you know what's coming. The best weekend of my life as a football fan, just so our family know. Lee, look, Lee Clark, great Newcastle legends. I got to go and spend a weekend at Birmingham and watch them train, watch them play. And it's funny now, Lee, because I'm going to tell you right now, every game that we play, there's a player plays. And I'll say to my dad, he was there that day. Jesse Lingard, Darren Randolph, you know, they were all there. No, they were all there that weekend. And I was so lucky and fortunate as a fan that you gave me my best ever football weekend. But that was a real challenge for you because it was literally, that's what you had. And you kept them up. You could see the passion on that last day when you kept them up. That was a tough gig, wasn't it?
Yeah, listen, it was a job that changed within weeks. When I took over on July the 1st, we were a club that were going to go for promotion, automatic promotion. I was going to reinvest in already a very strong squad. I was going to add to that. And then within a couple of weeks, the bombshell came that Carson Young, my owner, based in Hong Kong, would put under house arrest and all his assets were frozen. So it basically meant the club was running without any type of slush fund. We had to generate our own money, which basically meant I was, you know, continuing looking to.
You went into the academy though, didn't you? You brought you brought so many young players through, Lee. I mean, because that's what you had to do. But if you look now at those young players, I mean, it was phenomenal what you did.
Mind had already played a few games under Chris Hughton previously, but Nathan, and to be fair, Nathan and Jack were 2 players I wanted to build the squad around. They were 2 phenomenal young players, but ultimately, these were the players that I had to sell earlier than I wanted to, and for knockdown prices, because the vultures were circling. They knew the club was in financial difficulties. They knew that we wouldn't have to be demanding top dollar because we're in a precarious position. And we lost those players. We didn't only just lose them; we lost them for fees that they were worth at least double that. But we, you know, what the shining light was the academy players. they fought so hard for that badge on the shirt, and they fought for the club. The expectation of the fans stayed the same because I couldn't really tell them the full truth at the time. But I didn't, it was never a problem. That club is a brilliant club. The facilities, the ground, the training ground at Wast Hills, the support, the size of the support, it's Premier League. Hopefully an ex-teammate of mine, an ex-Birmingham player, Lee Boyer, who started off so well there, can try and get some help to try and get them back to the Premier League. I'd love to see them there. I would love to have delivered more success, but it was impossible because I was
It was.
having to bring someone in. I couldn't spend more than 10,000 a week. That was like an example. They're hypothetical, the figures, but it was just giving you a round figure of the examples I was having to do. We're under a transfer embargo, so it was one out before one in, and it was on reduced figures compared to the player that went out. So
I did come to training one morning.
Yes, you did. You nearly got a game.
I was slightly late, but if you think about it, Jesse Lingard literally was stand alone. You had him. He trained well. What a fantastic player. And now, Euros, Jesse. What a fantastic lad.
Well, listen, whenever when I signed a young player from Manchester United, especially, you could easily tell they were a Manchester United player because they trained the way they played. They had a desire to win everything that they'd done, whether it was a sprint in training, whether it was a five-a-side, a head tennis game, whether it was the match day. They had this willingness, and Jesse brought that. Jesse was an attack-minded player, but he brought that winning mentality as well, which was brilliant, and it's testament to the work that goes on behind the scenes with the young players at the clubs like Man United. They instill this mentality into them, and when he came, he was just phenomenal. 4 goals on his debut. We beat Sheffield Wednesday by 4, and just went from strength to strength. And I loved having him at the club. He was a great character. He was a super lad. I'm delighted he's bounced back from the personal problems. I think there was unfair and unjust criticism of him over the last couple of years, and when the stories come into the public domain of why those reasons were, it shows you him in a great light. It shows you what the boy's about. He looked after his young siblings while his mum was having 1 or 2 issues. He loves that. He loves his mum and his family, and that took the importance, and it took away from his football a little bit. But there's nothing more important than your family. And since that's been rectified, he's gone to West Ham and he's been one of the standout players. And there's another one. You're so proud that you've worked with these players when they were young, because you know that they fully deserve everything that comes their way in terms of success, attitude, and it's a special bond we have with these players.
We're going to move into where you are now, because it's literally my best friend from my hometown into Africa. As we said at the start of the show, it's going really well. I know you love it because we WhatsApp most days, and you're loving it. Just give us a little bit. It's different for you because you put up a great Instagram post the other day, training at midnight, obviously due to Ramadan, but you're absolutely loving the life in Sudan, being at a great club, aren't you?
Yeah, listen, it's a brand new experience for me. It's learning a new culture. I've always wanted to coach abroad. I had the opportunity with an overseas club in Europe a few years ago, which I'd agreed with the owner of that club to do. Unfortunately, my father took ill, so I couldn't pursue that. I wasn't prepared to move abroad at that stage. And And then this one came about. I'd done my due diligence on the club. I seen it was one of the biggest clubs in Africa. When the COVID restrictions are gone and we go back to some kind of normality, you're talking about 43,000 in the Red Castle. I mean,
it's going to be massive.
We've had them at We've had a couple of hundred of them allowed into training on some days, and what they've created, the noise and the passion is just phenomenal. So when the stadium's full, 43,000, I'm expecting it to be absolutely crazy. So yeah, that side of it, the Ramadan stuff. We were in a training camp in Egypt, and we're training at midnight, 1 a.m. I was getting back to my room in the hotel at 3:30 a.m. It was something different, but something I really enjoyed. I've done it. It's a great experience. We trained at 9:30 last night. The heat here in Sudan at the moment is really high. It's in mid to high 40s. The players, I've got so much respect for, because I'm pushing them to work. That's one of the things I've tried to do with my staff, my fitness coaches, up the intensity and the fitness levels of the players. And the players have bought into that so much. But for the work as hard as they do in the heat levels, I know obviously they're used to it. But I mean, it's so hot for me on the touchline during the games and stuff like that. So.
But listen, are you pushing? You're pushing them hard, because at the end of the day, let's have it right. I've known you for a long time, but I'll take you back. Huddersfield, all those games that you won, Birmingham kept them up. I mean, Newcastle, you were assistant coach, and they finished 8th, got to Europa League. You're an absolutely fantastic coach. So it's literally Marek's advantage to have you there and push them, because they are literally crying out for a little bit more of what they want. I mean, I look at their Facebook. I look at the fans. The fans go mad. They literally are, on Facebook. They're like, we want this. We want this. They're a huge club.
Yeah, listen. The thing I've got to do here is I've got to stay successful in the Sudan League. So, we beat our local rivals Al Hilal a couple of weeks ago, 2-0 in a big game. We could actually won by 4 or 5. So that's a big result for anyone in touch with Marek. And I've got to continue that success in the league. So hopefully we can keep going with that. But when we get back to the Champions League, we've got to be able to get in those group stages. And we've got to be able to try and progress from that. I mean, we had Al Ali from Egypt in our group.
It's a massive club.
We were seconds away from causing a deserved upset. We were 2-0 up. We missed the penalty to go 3-0 up. We had some more chances in the second half, and they ended up rescuing the game with a 96-minute equaliser, where my lads had fatigued a bit because it was early in our reign.
But it was an unbelievable performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, literally. Yeah, listen, for people who are listening from probably the UK who don't understand the game in Africa and Middle East or the clubs, Al Ali are basically the Real Madrid of African football. They've won the African Champions League 9 times. They're supported by 70 to 80,000 supporters. It's a huge club. I've been over to Egypt. I've seen the potential and the size of it, the sporting clubs that I have all around Cairo, the setup, the way it's run. It's a phenomenon. So I think those 2 results for me and the group have made people sit up and take notice to say that when we come to the big games, we can deliver. But my next phase after is to try and get a group of players of quality to make us a real competitive team in the African Champions League. So when it comes to the group stage, we've got to give ourselves a great chance to be going through to the then knockout stages.
But you always do this. You're so you always put your team first. But I literally got to pay homage to you, because I mean, what you've done here and what you can do. If you get, we're talking Champions League over here, where we're based, it's going to be massive. And I think that club's going to be back on the map, and it's huge for you. Sorry, Lee. Are you still there? Yeah, we're just saying that. I mean, the Champions League stuff for you guys is huge. It's massive. I mean, what can you literally? You've got so much to take away from not just your domestic stuff, African wise, but you've got an Arabic Champions League to look at, haven't you?
Yeah, that'll be coming up very, very soon. And as I said, we look forward to the draw for that. As you know, we could be facing teams Qatar, Saudi, Bahrain, Dubai. So that's a new challenge for us as well, and we're looking forward to that. You know, hopefully when we get into that competition, we can show everyone the improvements that we've made in the group.
There'll be no doubt that you've improved them. There's no doubt in my mind. I read from the supporters. Literally, it's like Man United, Man City. It's like Real Madrid and Barcelona. It's so passionate where you are. But they've got a great gaffer. I've just got so many messages, Lee, for you. They want to see that goal again. How did that go in? I've literally had 14 messages of how did that go in. I don't know when I was there that day in Swindon. Lee, it's been absolutely fascinating. I've got to give the guys their last code, otherwise if I don't, I'll get absolutely lambasted. There's your last third code. I really hope you've enjoyed it. A total legend has been on our show this afternoon, and can't thank you enough, Lee, for being on the show and giving us your time. And hey, listen, everyone, get on, look at their team, and they're going places. Lee Clark, thank you very much.
Thanks, Pete. Just to say that, you know, we do many of these shows, but your show's up there is one of the very, very best. So we'll hopefully keep getting more and more views and hits, and keep going from strength to strength.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. It's Hollywood Balls. It's Lee Clark, and that's us done for a Super Sunday.